Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or over in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
I think it does make it okay. Welcome to this week's episode of Stay Off My Lawn. It is February 18th, 2025, and this is episode 105. That's a lot of fives.
Fives there.
I got my poor teeth. So this is, episode 105. It's good. We like to kick it off with this new segment, and we're not sure. Write me an email. If you don't like this new segment, then let me know. I may ignore you, but let me know. It's soml@duck.com. Let me know if you like this. But
Look at disclaimer. Should you write in, we have the right reserved to tell you and just ignore you. What a nice way to put that. Right into us. We may get to it. We may not.
I may not know how to spell, but it may come through. You just never know. So here's our new segment.
It's time for Stupid Holidays of the Week.
Today is, among other things, Pluto Day. Not the Mickey Mouse dog, just the planet that was once considered.
Not that one.
Not that one. It used to be a planet, considered a member of our solar system between 1930 and 2006. But because it's small, which is just seemingly, it just doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem fair that they kicked it out in 2006. So anyway, we let it.
Did you know they brought it back?
R.I.P. Revolve in Peace. They call it a dwarf planet now, but is it actually still a planet?
It's a ball of ice supposedly, but then they brought it back. There was a lot of he's not yet. They followed their own science and decided that it was a planet, and they brought it back. So I don't know in what capacity, but there was a lot of yibby yabbering back and forth, and they were quite vociferous in their discussions.
I think you don't have enough going on in your life if your point of consternation is whether Pluto is a planet or not. Of course, yesterday was President's Day, a combination of Washington's birthday and on the 22nd and Lincoln's birthday on the 12th. When we were kids, we got both those days off in school, but now they've combined it to just one. The poor kiddies, they have to. But
we didn't get either one of them off.
You didn't?
Yeah, they didn't shut the school down. It's like it's their birthday today. Well, isn't that nice?
Seems like we had it off. Maybe I'm not remembering right, but it seems like we got both the days off. But anyway, they're on spring break this week. They normally combine President's Day with spring break, so all the kiddies are running around at 3:00 in the morning.
Lord, here we don't have spring break till it's actually spring, the end of March.
Well, this is sort of like maybe it's a winter break. It's a winter break. Maybe it's not spring. Spring break isn't until April, so it's winter break. We didn't get winter break either. We had spring break. That was the only week that we had off totally for the year.
Yeah.
Anyway, tomorrow is National Tug of War Day. Strangely enough, tug of war is believed to have been started in China 3,000 years ago, maybe using one of their old emperor's mustaches. I have no idea how that would have started, but it started in China. So,
how nice!
Yeah, how nice. Thursday is National Love Your Pet Day, even though mine are spoiled to death all the other 364 days too. I get an extra hug on Anika and Pooh. So that's my, those are my babies.
I love my barn cats. I feed them every morning. I mean, and I have a special bowl that's heated so it won't freeze up.
That's a version of love, I think. Yes,
that's
absolutely.
as close as, it's gonna be.
And of course, since last Friday was Valentine's Day, this Friday is National Breakup Day. Officially.
It's been a week. That's long enough.
The flowers died. Whatever. We got
flowers died just like our love.
Officially, Breakup Day, I had to look this up, is the last day of Anti-Valentine's Week. There's all kinds of different things this week, and it falls on February 21st every year. If you're tired of being in a toxic relationship with someone you have lost the spark with, rip the Band-Aid off and choose freedom on this day. So,
damn, those flowers I got the wife just won't don't die. What the hell's up with that?
It's because it's true love, I think is what that means. And Saturday is National Margarita Day. Seems like more of a summer drink, I would think, but I'm not much of a margarita guy. But if you ripped the Band-Aid off yesterday or this Friday, then your toxic boyfriend or girlfriend, this may be a helpful thing to get over their loss of.
I need to make fajitas this weekend so I can have margarita with
them.
them.
You go. See, I'm telling you, all these holidays are by somebody. The chicken people and the paste salsa people, they're all putting these holidays out there. It's like we need to, and of course the tequila people.
There you go. You got to include those people because they're real important.
And the lemon people and the salt people. Everybody's working together. Oh my gosh. Well, let's start off with something that's disturbing, sad, and a little funny, if I'm being honest. The city of Worcester. And I think the
that's right. Can't get there from here. If you don't go up through Worcester, you're going to get lost.
That's for locals up in Massachusetts. It's Worcester. But if you read it, it's Worcestershire or however. There's as many pronunciations of that town or that sauce as there is genders in the Democratic Party. So I
like that when I went to how to pronounce it because, in our business, when we're doing recordings and stuff, you get weird names on things. Oh, yeah. And so you go look them up, how to pronounce. And it was all local people. Well, if I'm tired, it's just Worcester. That's all, just Worcester. Okay, Worcester. Well, that'll be fine with me. Gonna go up to Worcester and have a good time. I don't know what they do up there.
I don't know what they do. We're going to tell you what they're doing up there.
I'll tell you what their city council's doing. Holy crap.
That reminds me, it's like I've had a couple of commercials I've had to do for cities in Wales. And I don't know if you're familiar with some of the names in Wales. It's like, man, you got to really get your tongue dancing to get that thing pronounced correctly because that's just...
There's too many letters and not enough vowels.
It's like 16 letters and one and it's just one way to say it. And I'm like, and it's only, anyway, it's terrible. But the city of Worcester, before it was passed, had a open debate at a city council meeting of some sort. But this is, anyway, I'm not even going to tell you what they're trying to do. I'm going to play the clip because it's just too good.
I need the city to protect me because the federal government won't. And if you think you're afraid of Trump, you should see how afraid of Trump I am. If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want the city to be a safe space for trans people, you better prepare for trans people to make this a very unsafe space.
I'm shaking right now.
Clearly, right?
I don't want to be here. I'm sorry. Am I taking too long pleading for my life?
Yeah.
You remembered how many children I have and that 2 of them are trans.
I speak as both the B and the T in the LGBT.
I'm multiply disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that causes me immense physical pain. I'm on the autism spectrum, and I have narcolepsy, and I couldn't drive myself here, so I had to hide from my driver that I was in drag, which is not an easy thing to do in drag.
I do not want to be here. It's my day off. I do not want to be in your DMs. I do not want to be in your email inboxes. I do not want my creativity writing diss tracks like Kendrick. I don't want to spend an hour applying glitter on my face so that you will hear and see me. I want you to listen to me.
Let us remember that the Nazis burned the books that the Nazis burned books on gender sciences first. Now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers, trans, LGBT people, and even special needs, denying life-saving and affirming care.
That was his moment in the sun, and he screwed it up.
Christmas. It's like, what do the Nazis have to, where does that come from?
I have no idea.
I know. It's because of how you're told to say stuff from either indoctrination in school or you've been watching too much CNN, MSNBC, most likely.
That's exactly right. But the one lady is trans, and she's got 2 trans kids. It's like, oh my gosh. It's like, I don't know. It's sort of like having a vegan cat. I mean, if you got a vegan cat, that's your fault. It's not because your cat looks at you one day. It's like, I only want carrots. Just never happens. You made those kids like that.
It's like, what is your problem? Nobody's taking any rights away from anybody, but they have convinced themselves that all their rights are gone. No, just we're not doing the he, she, they, it, we, us.
In official
whatever.
Capacity. That's all. I mean, you call yourself whatever you want. You call yourself.
You can do whatever. I don't care. Yeah. Be whoever you want to be. That's fine. I don't have to play the game. Don't care. Exactly. It doesn't bother me. You can be whoever you want to be.
You call yourself an eggplant. I don't care. It's got nothing to do with me. But they are somehow under the. We've got a mutual friend on social media. It's like, I've got friends. Their rights are going to be disappeared. I'm like, what are you talking about? What rights? There has been no threat of taking away anybody's rights.
Nope.
Oh my goodness gracious!
But somehow or another, the word on that has gotten out that that's what is happening, and this is how you're supposed to believe. And we'll have some more on that kind of thing. Where
absolutely,
they're doing all the same thing, just like they did with COVID. They have their talking points, and you need to get that out. Yeah. So
exactly.
Anyhow,
we were talking off the air about this whole playing along with things. It's like, and I wish we had been recording when we talked about it, but it's like, just because you want to call yourself something, for example, an eggplant. If you want to call yourself an eggplant, that's not the First Amendment right to make me call you an eggplant. I've got that's not within that First Amendment. I mean, you can't make me do something to go along with your delusion. If you're, I don't, and like we talked about before, I don't talk to schizophrenics, imaginary friends either. So
neither do I. I don't either. I know we're together on that. That's good. Okay.
You do talk to Steve quite a bit, but anyway.
He's sleeping, or I'd get his point of view on this. But at any rate,
the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, I'm sure you've heard about this. If you're not dead, you've heard about this. Announced Monday that they found some $4.7 trillion in payments from the U.S. Treasury that were missing a critical tracking code. So what does that mean? It means that tracking that transaction is impossible. Almost impossible is what they said. So $4.7
these are some very smart guys who know how to get code in to find things out. And the left is just going nutbags. We, as the old saying goes, you cut them off at the pass because they're chopped down at the knees. All the different things that their funds have dried up, just absolutely stopped. And they're like, that extra income you were getting, no.
Yeah.
And there is an ungodly amount of phony crap going on with Social Security. You know that there is 1,000 people that are 230 years old getting Social Security, and you wonder why it's going broke?
Millions of 150-year-olds. And now the left has actually come out and given an explanation for this. They said that Social Security system is under has been written in COBOL, which COBOL has got, and I don't know anything about this.
A little bit, but that's old. That's like almost 30, 40 years old.
Yeah, it's like COBOL. I remember COBOL and Fortran and I forgot what the other one was, Plus. But all that stuff, they said that it's based on 150, so that's why they've got an explanation. I don't know how true it is, but if you know this stuff, please write us an email and explain it to us and tell us whether there's any teeth to that, because I can't find anything. But it does seem like a lot. I've heard about people doing this, continuing to receive their Social Security checks of their loved ones after they passed on for years. I think that's just
generations have received checks,
and
nobody seems to be, cutting that off and saying, hey, no, this is, they died right after the Civil War, which is kind of funny because they didn't even start with the Social Security system, is my understanding, until like 1936.
Probably so. That's there because it had to be FDR. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's only a little over 86,000, like 500-ish. I can't remember the number, but 86,000 folks, 86,000 plus, that are centenarian, that are over 100 years old. And
I was surprised it's that much. But
the first section of sending checks out to those that are 100 to 109 or whatever. I can't remember.
4,734,000. I've got it written down here.
You got them there. Yeah. The wife showed me that yesterday and was looking at it. I'm going, holy crap. There's 4 million. There's 4 million more on that list than actually exist on just the first category. Do you got any more of them?
Yeah. Between 140 and 149, there's 3.5 million. Between 150 and 159, there's 1.345 million. And of course, between 180 and 189, there's 695 people. All these people are receiving Social Security checks.
Yeah, oh my it's gosh. Like where is that coming from? They couldn't even get a number until 1936.
Being that old is not just for voting anymore. Apparently, just because you're. Oh my gosh!
Wowzer!
One more thing before we go to break. Mitch McConnell was the only Republican not to vote to approve Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. for their cabinet positions. Everybody, all the Democrats voted against, all the Republicans voted for, except for Mitch McConnell. It's the only, and to me, that tells you right there, when there is a primary for your senators or your congresspeople, go out there and vote for anybody else that is running against them. Hopefully there's somebody, and most of the time around here anyway, they're unopposed. But I mean, hopefully if there's somebody that, if your senator or congressperson is not doing the job you want them to do, voting the way you think that your community wants them to vote, then you need to primary them out. Get rid of him. He should have been gone years ago. Absolutely years ago.
What square? This one, okay.
And of course, he has those moments where he just kind of stands there completely blank. It's a glitch in the Matrix. But anyway, so we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about J.D. Vance and his speech at Munich at a security conference over there last week. And boy, he got a lot of panties in a wad. I can't imagine they can even sit down.
Their knickers were knotted, that's for sure.
Yes, sir. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
You know, I love the Stay Off My Lawn podcast. In fact, everyone loves it. You know why? Because they're well-informed and make me laugh. It's a winning combination, and I know all about winning combinations.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
We're high stepping. Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 2. And yes, this is 2. I mean, I can count that high. I don't even have to take my socks off for that one. Well, J.D. Vance spoke at the Munich security conference last week, and all the big wheels of Europe were there. And there was a lot of silence in the audience. It was really pretty funny.
It was hilarious. Yeah. Didn't slow him down one bit. He just kept going on with the same inflections, and this is what it is. And they're going, are you allowed to say that at this? Can you talk like that?
If you listen really closely during the pauses, you can almost hear, and that's actually panties wadding up within people's cracks. It's just
those knickers are going.
Yes, they are. So here's part of that speech here.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values shared with the United States of America. Now, I was struck that a former European commissioner went on television recently and sounded delighted that the Romanian government had just annulled an entire election. He warned that if things don't go to plan, the very same thing could happen in Germany too. Now, these cavalier statements are shocking to American ears. For years, we've been told that everything we fund and support is in the name of our shared democratic values. Everything from our Ukraine policy to digital censorship is billed as a defense of democracy. But when we see European courts canceling elections and senior officials threatening to cancel others, we ought to ask whether we're holding ourselves to an appropriately high standard. And I say ourselves because I fundamentally believe that we are on the same team. We must do more than talk about democratic values. We must live them. Now, within living memory of many of you in this room, the Cold War positioned defenders of democracy against much more tyrannical forces on this continent. And consider the side in that fight that censored dissidents, that closed churches, that canceled elections. Were they the good guys? Certainly not. And thank God they lost the Cold War. They lost because they neither valued nor respected all of the extraordinary blessings of liberty. The freedom to surprise, to make mistakes, invent, to build. As it turns out, you can't mandate innovation or creativity, just as you can't force people what to think, what to feel, or what to believe. And we believe those things are certainly connected. And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action.
So you got to know that they don't have any kind of First Amendment, apparently.
Well, you could hear a pin drop in that. He stopped a couple different times. There was the one that I saw, there was virtually no clapping until almost to the end. It was like 2 or 3 people, and the whole crowd goes, "Who's that over there clapping?"
Well, and you got to wonder if that's the reason why these right wing, that's what the media likes to call them, these extreme right wing groups that are starting to gain momentum over there. You know, we talked a couple of weeks ago about the AfD. They're in Germany. You know, they're getting a lot of momentum. They're getting a lot of people starting to follow them because for the government to be pro squelching of free speech, and I've got another clip that you're going to be even more shocked at. That's really concerning. This is Europe. This is not North Korea. I'm blown away.
And what they're doing, and people over there are as fed up with it, I think, and it's starting to come to a head. They're going to have a real problem in jolly old England. Is not so jolly at the moment. No. It's you got farmers blocking streets downtown, and all the stuff that's happening there. It's just about to come to a head. In England, they're tired of fed up with all the left stuff and the people pouring into their country that, no, you don't belong here. Sure. They don't have a problem, same as we don't. I don't have a problem with someone coming to this country. Yes, we probably need to fix our immigration laws so that it doesn't take 4 years or more just to get into the country. But you can't go any other country and just waltz across the border and go, well, I'm now a sovereign member of France. No, you're not.
No, it doesn't work that way.
No.
And again, I think we've talked about this. Well, it's probably been about a year since we've talked like this, but it's like just because you lock your front door doesn't mean that you hate the people outside. It just means that you love the people inside. And I think that you gotta kind of break it down that way. It's like, if you're going to come in, knock on my door, and I will open the door and see if you're somebody I want to let in. The country works the same way. Don't come sneaking in my back door because you're going to get shot. And I think that here in this country, just like any other civilized country, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, the amount of people coming across the border it's like they just turned off a faucet. Yeah. It's like Biden kept, well, there's not much we can do about it. We need to. No, That's not it. It's like, come and knock on my door. No, you're not getting in.
Back in the early days when I first got the internet and everything, I found there was a guy named Bob. His URL was Bob and Oz, and what he was a Brit that moved to Australia, and he was talking about his transition of moving from Britain to Australia and how all the hoops he had to jump through and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, and he was, he was a normal guy. It wasn't like he was a criminal or anything, but he had to go through a bunch of hoops. That's just the way, and it's still that way today in Australia, in New Zealand, in most of Europe. I mean, this is not anything new. We just have to be able to secure our borders, which they've done a great job so far. It's only been a month.
Yeah. Oh, the left is using numbers to their advantage and not giving you details. Like, well, they're not arresting as many people as Biden did. It's because there's not many people coming across. Hello. Well, it's way down. Your arrest under Biden was like 21,000, and now it's down to less than almost 1,000. Yeah, it's less than 1,000. And it's like, well, they're not arresting it. There's nobody to arrest. Yes. They look up and see a whole line of military on the other side. It's stopping them. They amazing how that's all it took. Hasn't even been in office a month.
Yep.
What do you know?
And just the message out there that we're not accepting you anymore. It's not going to work like it has the last 4 years. And they're just, and Mexico has gotten the idea. And it's like, they fought it at first, but now they're like, okay, the Remain in Mexico policy, we're going to make sure that nobody's crossing over from our southern border. And they're taking this seriously. And she's a daggum communist down there in Mexico. Yeah. So, I mean, okay, this is working out. Anyway, J.D. Vance had more criticism for the infringements on personal liberty there in the EU. And Britain is done to its own people. Britain is not part of the EU anymore, of course. So, be honest, I didn't know any of these stories, but he laid it on them, and it's incredible. Again, you can't hear a pin drop.
I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
This is why Keir Starmer over there has just done a total disservice to that country. What a beautiful country, and we have good friends over there, and they're frustrated. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's I heard his speech and I kept noticing There's nothing when he pauses at the end of a rather poignant moment. Nothing. You can't hear any rustling. There is no movement. There's not a puff of nothing going on.
They're absolutely shocked. But how in the world do you...
How dare you talk to... Well, this is you morons. The stuff you're doing is not right.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you enforce? Apparently, this guy was guilty because he was silently praying. Are you kidding me? And that sounds more North Korean than anything else. I mean, North Korean, China, whatever.
Yeah. It's just, and like I said, they're pushing things over there where it's starting to get a little more loud stuff, and more people are against things, and they're going to have a problem here real soon.
Absolutely. It just kills me. But I'm surprised that they can actually enforce that kind of law where it's like,
I don't get how can you tell that that's what they're doing?
I was going to say, obviously it's probably, if you're inside your own house, that's unenforceable, I would think. But then again, I guess if
they're saying it's enforceable, so, and then where do you get the scum-sucking piles of garbage that want to enforce this crap?
Yeah.
Those are the ones that scare me.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. If you're a police officer, how in the world do you go, okay, I'm going to arrest you because you admitted to silently praying for a baby you aborted a couple of years ago? I mean, how in the world do you look at yourself in the mirror? I mean, how does that even happen? Anyway, Face the Nation's Margaret Brennan, who's still licking her wounds from J.D. Vance, making a meme out of her interview with him. Remember, he said, "I really don't care."
He likes the
Margaret.
attention, I think.
I think she does. That you can buy those, as a side note, you can buy those T-shirts on Amazon. I really don't care, Margaret. It's just, it's beautiful. When you're made a meme, I guess they kept putting her in the, I think she hosts Face the Nation, I think is what it is. But anyway.
I don't know.
She was talking to Secretary of State Marco Rubio after the VP's speech and did what they always do. They make a mountain out of a molehill because they hate conservatives and they don't know history. So here's how that little interview went.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history. I also think it's wrong. Again, I go back to the point of his speech. Okay, the point of his speech was basically that there is an erosion in free speech and intolerance for opposing points of view within Europe, and that's of concern because that is eroding. That's not an erosion of your military capabilities. That's not an erosion of your economic standing. That's an erosion of the actual values that bind us together in this transatlantic union that everybody talks about. And I think allies and friends and partners that have worked together now for 80 years should be able to speak frankly to one another in open forums without being offended, insulted, or upset. And I spoke to foreign ministers from multiple countries throughout Europe. Many of them probably didn't like the speech or didn't agree with it, but they were continuing to engage with us on all sorts of issues that unite us. So again, at the end of the day, I think that people give that is a forum in which you're supposed to be inviting people to give speeches, not basically a chorus where everyone is saying the exact same thing. That's not always going to be the case when it's a collection of democracies where leaders have the right and the privilege to speak their minds in forums such as these.
Like an echo chamber, like a lot of people do here in America. They only hang around people that they agree with totally, and they have no idea.
I mean, what she said is, well, where were you educated?
Free speech
are you aware
caused
that the media during the Nuremberg trials, unfortunately, a lot of them went to the gallows because they were part of the propaganda machine.
Sure.
I'm just saying that's not a good idea.
And that's where the Russians learned it, and that's where it's like all this stuff is perpetuated over the. But to say that free speech caused anything like the Nazism? Are you kidding me? She's out there, man. I don't know. But Marco has proved himself.
And is just being ripped up one side and down the other all day. I mean, it's like I saw it and I went, no, she was serious?
Yeah, she was dead serious. She's just misinformed. It was malinformation or misinformation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was malicious. I think
very malicious. Yes, it was. But Marco Rubio has proved himself to be the right choice for Secretary of State. He's fantastic. So anyway, we are up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about this whole constitutional crisis we're supposed to be in, and we'll dig into that. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
The Stay Off My Lawn podcast is recorded before a live studio audience.
Say where, say when, say Delta, the airline with the big jets.
No wonder more and more commuters are saying Delta. Now you can take your choice of 9 conveniently timed flights daily to either Cincinnati or St. Louis. Yes, Delta Airlines has non-stop, round-the-clock flights, 9 a day, including 2 jets to each of these important cities. Fly to Cincinnati or St. Louis in the early morning for a full day's work. Plenty of return flights in the afternoon or evening at your convenience. And with every Delta flight, you get that famous Delta difference, the alert, friendly, personal service that makes you remember how pleasant long after you've forgotten how fast. For reservations to Cincinnati and St. Louis, call Delta or see your travel agent.
Fly Delta all the way.
Well, that commercial kind of came in the on the back end of that Delta flight that flipped over on its top. Did you see that in Toronto?
Yes, they were spraying it down, and no one was seriously hurt. But when you've got a crosswind that rips a wing off,
that was bad.
Okay, that's a problem.
There's a video out there, and I hadn't seen it, but I had heard about it from the perspective of another pilot. And I don't know what he was filming, but apparently he had no idea what was going to be happening. But that plane came in, and he filmed the whole thing. It's an incredible. You're going to have to search for it, but it's incredible viewpoint. But yeah, to watch that and know that nobody died, it's incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So a lot of people hanging from their seatbelts upside down, but that's why they say do not undo your seatbelt until we've reached the terminal, because they're basically on the ground. You think, oh, we made it, we're good, and all of a sudden,
yep. And in Toronto, I would imagine this time of year, it's got some serious weather.
Yeah. Well, it was like a 40 to 50 mile an hour crosswind. Yeah. I'm amazed that when it did that, you didn't have an instant fire with that metal scooting down and all the leaking of the jet fuel. So.
Yeah, I heard one of the passengers talk about that. He said all they could smell was jet fuel. Everybody's hanging upside down. And it's like, so there was kind of a panic. Everybody's doing their seatbelts and falling on the ceiling and crawling the heck out of there. And it's like, I'm blown away that it was, that nobody got hurt really badly. So seemingly, I haven't heard about the extent of the injuries, but nobody died.
Yeah, I've seen the different stuff on it as well, and everybody was all strapped in, and it wasn't a problem. Yeah. There was a child that was in somebody's lap that got a little hurt. I don't remember what it is, but I don't know about you, but if I'm going upside down, the last thing I'm going to do is put my arms up. The kid is going to get squished.
Absolutely. It might break a rib, but they're going to be alive. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how somebody didn't keep a hold of them. I know that mine would have never hit the ground.
No, me neither. She might have hit my chin and got a headache, but that'd be it.
Unless I got knocked out. That kid's not leaving my arms.
Because all I'm thinking is my granddaughters. They're not going anywhere for sure. Well, last week we played a clip of Ilhan Omar, and I think we're saying that correctly, saying that we were in a constitutional crisis. I think she was one of the first ones to kind of coin that term with all the fraud, waste, and abuse that DOJ is digging into our federal government about. That seems to have kind of grown legs. These are clips just from last week from CNN and MSNBC.
If he intends to ignore what the courts say, this country will potentially find ourselves in a constitutional crisis.
That is a constitutional crisis. That is a crisis for our democracy.
Most serious constitutional crisis.
Clearest sign that we might be creeping towards a constitutional crisis.
It's a constitutional crisis.
Basically, we're in a constitutional crisis, even though there isn't a complete, clear definition.
It's a constitutional crisis. Suggests that they are on the cusp of a constitutional crisis.
Democrats to keep calling it a crisis, a constitutional crisis.
You really do have a constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
The constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis.
That is a genuine constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis. Constitutional crisis.
So there's this whole question of, is it a constitutional crisis? Yes, it is. But we can't just keep saying constitutional crisis, constitutional crisis. Nobody knows exactly what that means.
I guess they don't know what it means because they haven't read it. Again,
they don't know how the Constitution works because everything they're saying is a constitutional crisis is being done according to the Constitution. So it's not the non-constitution that they've been following, which means whatever we feel like, we'll just tell you that's in the No, it's not. They have no idea what's in the Constitution because they've not read it. They don't know what's there. They only quote it when they think it benefits them. That's the only time they bring it up.
Because fear-mongering works with a lot of people. And it's like you throw something out there. It's like with COVID. We keep bringing up COVID. But, man, there's so many good examples of bad things that people who are in charge have done. And it's just a copy and pasted message. Let's send that out there. Keep saying it, and get people scared of Elon and Trump that whatever they're doing is just terrible.
Well, it's just the same thing they did with COVID when we played it. There were 36 different stations all across the U.S., maybe not in huge markets, but the first one was from a station in my area, and then they just kept building on it, and pretty soon there was 36 stations on the screen, all doing the same exact script.
Yep. Even Rogan played that with, I think he was interviewing somebody. Howie Mandel, that's right.
That's what it was. Yeah.
He brought that up, and Howie Mandel hadn't seen that. I think a lot of people hadn't
flabbergasted.
seen that. He was. And Howie Mandel's far from a straight-thinking conservative, for sure. Yeah. Two guys that you may recognize their voices have been in charge maybe 12 of the last 16 years. They actually sound like they're in favor of what DOJ is doing. Here's a little bit of that.
Budget reform is not an option. It's a necessity.
The American people are entitled to transparency.
We can't sustain a system that bleeds billions of taxpayer dollars on programs that have outlived their usefulness or exist solely because of the power of politicians, lobbyists, or interest groups.
They're entitled to be able to figure out where their dollars are going, and they're entitled to accountability to make sure that we're using the dollars for what we said it was for.
We are going to go through our federal budget, as I promised during the campaign, page by page, line by line, eliminating those programs we don't need and insisting that those that we do need operate in a sensible, cost-effective way.
What should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody.
We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue.
No amount of waste is acceptable.
Mm-hmm. I find it very hard to disagree.
Are those
with
new
anything
Republicans? I'm not. I don't know that I.
You would think.
You'd say it with a straight face.
That was if you're Googling, if you're taking notes, that was called lip service.
Yeah, they didn't go line by line. No. If they went line by line, how come we're finding stuff that's like 200-year-old individuals, 1,000 of them that are over 230, whatever it is, getting Social Security? You wonder why it's going broke? It's being finagled with.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like that $4.7 trillion they found in the Treasury, I think that may be just the tip of the iceberg. We have barely started to peel this onion. It's going to get a lot worse. But that's BHO and Sniffy is what that clip was called.
I forgot about the name of it. That's hilarious.
But but that's the thing. So when they talked about it, there was no talk about it being a constitutional crisis.
News media, that's all. The propaganda machine went Okay, well, you're saying that. You're on our side, so we know you won't do anything. It's okay.
It's incredible. It really is. Stephen Miller, Trump's deputy White House chief of staff, that's not easy to say for me this morning, was on CNN's Jake Tapper show the other day. And again, I don't think they're used to going up against smart people anymore. I think the Biden administration caused their muscles to get kind of squishy, and or the brain anyway to get squishy.
That may be the other.
So here's how that little exchange went, and it didn't go well for Jake.
There's 2 million employees in the federal government. Overwhelmingly, the career federal service in this country is far left wing. The American people.
I don't know that to be a fact.
Well, I'll give you a great example. We looked at USAID as an example.
That's
98% of the workforce either donated to Kamala Harris or another left-wing candidate, just as an example.
Okay, but
let me just
an entire workforce as having a...
Wait, whoa. Did you just say that saying someone voted for Kamala Harris is demonizing them?
No, so according to your suggestion is that there's a bias.
No, but you used the word demonizing. You just said that I'm demonizing somebody by saying they voted for Kamala Harris.
Let's get back on track.
But I am on track.
Okay.
Let me stay on track. What I'm saying to you is this. There are 2 million employees in the federal government.
Right.
They're overwhelmingly left of center. The American people, I got to finish the sentence.
Okay.
I got to finish the sentence. The American people voted for dramatic change implemented by Donald Trump.
That didn't... that devolved pretty quick. But Stephen Miller didn't let that go. He's a very smart guy. I've been listening to him on...
it's like, no. The majority, no. I'm sorry. 70 some odd million voted for things to move to the right because they're tired of the garbage that's been happening. And what was it? 87% of all counties in the entire United States voted red.
Right.
87% of all counties.
Yeah. And just because the blue counties ended up having high populations because they're brainwashed by their local governments they went
to the indoctrination centers after high school.
That too.
They went to the upper indoctrination.
Speaking of demonizing, though, did we have enough time for this? I think so.
Yeah, we're good. We got 5 left.
Okay. Speaking of demonizing, the left-wing media loves to demonize poor Elon Musk. By the way, I can demonize him here just for a second. Somebody had come out and said that he's the father of their 5-month-old child. I just heard this morning, as a matter of fact. And of course, there was some kind of deal about that. But did you know that Elon has 13 children, if that one counts? 13.
Yeah, and I heard something about that, and I forget how many different females there were involved. I don't know.
I had never heard that. I didn't even know he had one. I didn't really know that much about him.
He's got several. He's the latest is the one that was in the White House, I think, is his youngest at the moment.
Is that what? Okay.
Other than this 5-month-old that's supposedly, whatever.
That's just kind of...
they're not perfect.
Does it? Yeah.
He was a lefty and he's moved, so...
Yeah, so things have changed for him. So anyway, they will blatantly skew the facts to their squishy-minded viewers to demonize poor Elon. But here's Rachel Maddow doing just that.
Elon Musk has apparently somehow convinced the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units. Isn't it great and definitely not at all illegal or profoundly corrupt? Definitely not ripping us all off to pay themselves, right?
Well, it sounds like some good hard-hitting reporting, except when you find out.
It does, except it's wrong. Anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, it sounds good if it wasn't wrong.
Tell us how wrong it is, Richard.
There's no country. It was done with the Biden administration, if I remember correctly. So, yeah,
it was a Sniffy Joe contract. Everybody's got their head sniffed, and that finalized the paperwork. But yeah, so I mean,
funny how they just conveniently leave out this one little thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a minor point. I mean, either that or they didn't Google it. I mean, again, it only
And I
took
think it's been canceled too. I'm not positive, but
I don't know.
I'm not sure what they're doing with it, but it's yeah.
What happened to honesty in the media? I mean, nobody can just say that, I don't know if this is true, but this is what happened. Or just say, look, this was under the Biden administration, but we still hate Elon for it. Of course, they loved Elon about a year ago.
That wouldn't fly with the narrative and the other squishy brains who haven't exercised in a long time.
Again,
it wouldn't matter to them then.
Yeah. Again, if your hard-hitting reporting has a narrative to it, it's not hard-hitting reporting. That's just you're spewing out what they tell you to spew. Anyway, we are up against another break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about meritocracy and how conservatives kind of like that and other people don't. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
This is what happens when you mix opinionated old guys and microphones. Stay off my lawn. We'll be right back.
Can I take your order?
I can't see you anymore.
Wow, this is really sudden. Why?
Well, your burgers are horrible for my health and energy. Your sodas are eating my teeth enamel. And supersizing, no one should put away that many fries at one meal.
Hey, I can change. I can add some fruit to my menu and a nice, thick, syrupy sauce.
No.
Help your kids break off their fast food relationships.
Hey, have some fries and let's talk about it.
See ya.
It'll be a surprise for everybody. Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 4. We're almost done. We are. I'm actually putting some pants on, getting ready to get out of here. I normally do this.
TMI.
Just because I do it bottomless doesn't mean it doesn't have a lot of value.
I know it's okay, Steve. It offends me as well. He was. I'm surprised you actually had something that offended Steve. I didn't know he could be offended.
I didn't either. I figured they were like us. It takes a while to offend us. Well, anyway, we conservatives talk a lot about meritocracy. It's a word that gets thrown around quite a bit. Of course, that's getting opportunities for making good choices, working hard, being smart, the whole thing. And it's not about the amount of melanin in your skin you were born with or being male or female or any of the other 72 genders. But one of our favorite congressmen, Wesley Hunt, talked about his run for Congress on the Tim Pool's podcast. I think it's called Timcast.
Yes, I like him. He has some really good info on there,
He sure does. He's very, very good. And this is where things, he talked about how things actually worked the way it should down there in Texas where he's from. So.
In primary, I beat out 9 white guys. In the general election, I beat out a white guy by 30 points. And it's a white majority district. Mm-hmm. And they voted for me overwhelmingly. And why? Because I was the best candidate. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's literally what our party is. I get to wake up every day and live Martin Luther King's dream. I'm literally being judged by the content of my character, not by the color of my skin. So people like me come around and we look around. I'm just like, actually, I'm just here because I just want a better America. I don't even view myself as Black or African American. First of all, I'm an American. I'm a combat veteran. I am a father. I am a West Point graduate. I'm an Ivy League graduate. And we can go all the way down the line before I get the black guy.
I'm a cool guy.
I try to be, right? I'm all these things. And I like the idea of our party not playing identity politics anymore. And then realizing that you see people like me, you see people like Byron Donalds, you see people like Senator Scott. We are all winning in white majority areas, by the way, people. So you can't call us racist anymore.
You shouldn't be able to anyway. But again,
well, it just doesn't make any difference. No. Somebody is, I don't care if you're pink, purple, orange, or green for that matter. If you're a good person, you're good to me, I'll be good to you. Yeah. There's no need to separate. We're called, let's see, last time I checked, what is it? Oh, that's right, Americans.
Yeah. It's a bit of a melting pot. And just like he said, he made good choices in his life, went to West Point, he's a combat veteran. He's a good family man. I mean, he's made good choices. So, and he's got conservative point of view, which people in his district want representing them in Congress. And just like Tim Scott in South Carolina, it's overwhelmingly white people in South Carolina, overwhelmingly white people here in Georgia. We got plenty of black members of Congress from Georgia. Byron Donalds is just south of where I'm from, and man, it's a plethora of white people down there. So it's like it's you calling us racist falls flat for most of us. I mean,
I'm sorry, just not. I have no problem. Doesn't make any difference. These are two of our favorite guys that we like to play clips from because their common sense and how much they love America comes through. I could give a rat's what color they were. Yeah. It really doesn't make any difference.
No, it doesn't. But it's good to have the media see that there are black people that actually feel the same way, and it's not just a bunch of white people. Because it's common sense, and a lot of people, Hispanics, the same way, are getting it. They're seeing that this is common sense. Marco Rubio is from Cuba. Is a Cuban American. I mean, his whole family is from this socialist country in Cuba that they understand that Americanism is not even close to what we would, the socialism that his family came from. And those kind of people really totally get the direction that the conservatives want to take the country. So, speaking of race, of course, we were talking about Byron Donalds. Also, he's a congressman from Florida, was on CNN recently and took the race-baiting host to the proverbial woodshed, which I can't get enough of here.
Reverend Al Sharpton criticizing President-elect Donald Trump for not nominating an African-American member for any cabinet position, I should say, yet. There are some spots to fill. Now, to be clear, he has picked some diverse candidates to be part of his overall team and also in his cabinet. But again, as of now, there's yet to be a black American picked for a cabinet-level slot. Joining me now, one of Trump's top allies on the Hill, Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida. Congressman, you have been a very vocal and effective surrogate for Trump and for his campaign and, frankly, the Republican Party. What is your response to this criticism?
I think it's criticism where people are upset that they still lost this election. And so if you were going to ask Reverend Al or anybody else in the Democrat Party, they're still licking their wounds about the fact that this did not work out the way that they thought it was going to. That being said, Donald Trump's cabinet is about people who are going to implement his agenda. And he's not done, by the way. You have Susie Wiles, the first woman ever to serve as chief of staff. Mm-hmm. You have Marco Rubio, a Cuban American who's going to serve as Secretary of State, representing America across the globe when it comes to foreign policy. You have Tulsi Gabbard going to be at DNI. So many others that are coming, and there's still slots to be filled. So I think everybody needs to pump the brakes and just wait and see what happens.
Do you think Democrats are putting form over substance?
Absolutely. Look, even if you look at how the Democrats filled the Joe Biden cabinet, they wanted to have a piece of every identity, but did they get the job done? Did they actually serve the interest of the American people? Because here's what I know. Whether you black or Hispanic, if the border is unsecure, Alejandro Mayorkas, if the border is unsecure, does that help people in their everyday lives? No, it does not. And so what Donald Trump's election is about is bringing competency and reality back to D.C. in the White House, making sure that the job gets done on behalf of the American people, regardless of their race, regardless of their religion, regardless of their creed.
He made a great point why the Biden administration failed. They looked at the color of somebody's skin or whether they were male or female. That's DEI. That's what it's all about.
Well, what do you think the reason for the vice president was?
Yes.
She did nothing but have constant turnover in her office. She couldn't even manage her own people that were under her. She was so visceral and just hateful to work with. She ran people off faster. I mean, it was 97% turnover rate. That's, you might have a fairly decent high turnover, but 90 some odd percent,
that's
really?
That's even more than Hillary had when she was senator and secretary of state. And they hated her too, because she was
I think she was what, in the mid 80s or something,
like
85% or more. Yeah. It was just absolutely ridiculous.
People aren't going to want to be talked to like that. I mean, she's just, I mean, both of them are just hateful. And I think a lot of it is because, their party has told them that they're basically that they're only there because they were female. And I mean, that's got to hurt. I mean, if somebody said that, I need a white guy to fill this position, why don't you come over here and do this? I'd feel like, well, find somebody else. I mean, I just don't, I don't know. I just don't like it.
Well, and we got Kash Patel that's coming up. That's, what is he, second generation Indian?
Yeah, he's Indian or Bangladeshian or something. Yeah, he's from Southern Asia. But he's one of the smartest guys too. I mean, you could see during that confirmation hearing, he was like very
He was all
smart.
over stuff too, and none of them had notes, and yet the facts they had, go look them up. They were the facts.
And Tulsi body slammed him. I mean, all of them. It's like Trump has really surrounded himself with good people. And I don't care.
I like how some of the FBI, if you confirm him, we're all just going to quit. Okay, you're not the people we want there anyway then. Peachy, don't let that door hit you in the butt where the good Lord split you.
If you can't somehow conform to somebody actually following the rule of law or the Constitution, then you should probably move on down the road.
You're not who we want anyhow. Nope. So, yeah. Okay.
I read that.
This has been a lot of.
Yes, it has. Speaking of people that got let go, though, I heard that only 1% of the people that got letters saying that, you either quit or possibly be fired by September, and we'll pay you through September. Only 1% of the people have come back. I don't know if we mentioned that before or not, but they were expecting 3 to 5% people taking them up on that offer, and they haven't. It's like.
Oh, and the news media has been trotting out folks who got
let
go. A narrative. We got fired. We knew where our money was coming from. They were contractors, and their contract was canceled. It was expired. They weren't even honest to God federal government workers, but they were being trotted out as they were with USAID. The folks with USAID, when they laid them all off, they got the same thing as the proposal. Is my understanding, they were going to get there all the way through the end of September.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good deal.
That's a lot of people that we're having to pay for through September.
That's true. But, I mean, once September rolls around, we're going to save a buttload of money. But it's like they don't understand. Working for the government, they figured they had a job for life. And and you and I working in the regular workforce, and probably everybody listening to me, unless you got some kind of government job, you knew that the company could make an announcement tomorrow and close up shop, and you're just going to be out. That's just the way it works in normal everyday life. Working for the government, there's no guarantee.
They've gotten too used to. I got a government job. I'm good to go. I'll just sit back and relax and hit a keyboard once in a while. Those days are done, folks.
Yep, that's how it worked. Anyway, we have a palate cleanser. This is about the genesis of a TV show. And this is unique because I actually knew right away who they were talking about. We'll see how it goes.
Now, the rest of the story. It is half a century and a fragrant memory away in the Blue Ridge foothills of North Carolina, on a dusty country road 30 miles northwest of Pilot Mountain. Stay on that road. It is taking you home, to a place that shines in your heart like a lighted window on a dark night, to a little town that rises from the mountain mist like a backwoods brigadoon, to a gentle community called Mount Airy. There, everybody knows everybody, and everybody is worth knowing. Mr. Forrest, the town barber, whose shop was in the square next to the shoe store. Pretty Miss Valentine, the fourth grade teacher, secret sweetheart of every small boy who ever daydreamed in her class. Gruff old Wade Stillman, the proprietor of the local pool hall, keeper in line of the town's mischievous teenagers. There's Floyd Pike, the kindly electrician, and Bess Merritt, the stern-faced lady principal of Rockford School, and Sam Patterson, the smiling, handshaking town sheriff. Their homes are all there, on streets lined with silver maple and sycamore, in a place of happily ever aftering called Mount Airy. This is as it was 50 years ago, when a boy was growing up there, a boy who lived on Haymore Street in a white frame house with a swing on the front porch. He loved to fish in Lovell's Creek for horny heads and perch, down where the afternoon breezes whispered in the birch trees, down by the big slick rock that jutted 5 yards out into the stream. He loved to swing on the rope that hung from a neighbor's tree or sit on the curb at night with the other boys, playing the harmonica, and telling ghost stories. His dad was shipping foreman at the local furniture company. The boy worked there during summer months. And then came the autumn, when the sycamores would turn brown and the silver maples would explode in crimson and yellow flame, and it was back to the red brick schoolhouse on Rockford Street. After school, there was Lamb's drugstore for a soda, and a free stand on the scale with a big glass dial. And there were Saturday matinees at the Grand, and Sunday services at Haymore Street Baptist, and picnics in the Glen, and hot dogs at the Snappy Lunch Cafe, and a constant companion mongrel pooch named Tippy, who rode everywhere in a handlebar basket on the boy's bicycle. And one day that same boy left his happy haven in the Blue Ridge foothills, first for the university at Chapel Hill, and then forever. But he took with him an overstuffed scrapbook of Mount Airy memories, a collection of unfading photographs of all his mind, landscapes of enchanted places, portraits of a warm family and true friends and good neighbors. And from those recollections always arose the aroma of love, the tie that bound, the true magic of that otherwise insignificant town. And those gentle ghosts continued to haunt the boy wherever he went until he brought them to life for the rest of us to share. You may have wondered where that wonderful place came from. Well, it was real, and for one brief, shining moment it belonged to a boy who grew up and had a television show and took us, smiling by the hand, to Once Upon a Time. The boy was Andy Griffith, and his beloved country Camelot Mount Airy became Mayberry, USA. And now you know the rest of the story.
It's unique. Both of us knew who this was.
Yeah, it just came across quick, and it reminded me of my small town that I grew up close to. And my grandfather wanting to take my brother and I used to have butch haircuts, and we'd have to go to the barber like every 2 weeks if Dad wasn't doing it. And Grandpa would take us because we'd walk in the door and the barber's sitting in the barber chair, and yet there's not a place to sit around the deal. The pop machine's in there for a dime, and you'd slide it down and pull it out. It was all these farmers in there just BSing on Saturday morning.
Sure.
So, you see that on Hee Haw. No, I lived that. I saw it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's a sense of
grow up.
Yeah, there's a sense of community within that kind of thing, and we've kind of lost some of that. I think even in the small towns today, I don't know if that's the same way it is. It used to be. Anyway, we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. Don't forget, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Smart Speaker, Rumble every week. Doggone it. YouTube, maybe not so much. They don't let us down. Yeah, they don't let us down. Exactly. So you can go there and see us anytime.
Or you can find us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the OracleTalkRadioNetwork.com. Enjoy us on the drive home. Why not? You can get the apps for both Apple and Android. They're now available. Or you know what? If you want to just listen to the stuff, just go to our good old website, StayOffMyLawn.us, for all our past and present episodes.
That's right. We paid for that little corner of the internet. Go use it, for goodness sake.
They're all there. All 105 of them.
Yep. And so enjoy your week, and we will see you then, folks.
Toodles, thanks so much for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.